Good morning and welcome to Messer Financial's Webinar Wednesday. Thanks for being with us here today. Today we're going to highlight a carrier that's new to Messer. We picked them up in October of last year, but we often like to highlight carriers who have products that differentiate themselves from the rest of the competition. And we feel like that's really the case with SBLI and their final expense product. So we've got three gentlemen with us today from SBLI, and they're going to be sharing with you guys some of the competitive advantages of writing final expense through their carrier. So Will, Stephen, and Russ, thank you so much for being with us today, and I'll hand things over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Troy, and thank you everybody for your time and attention this morning. It's great to be with you all here, and I hope your Wednesday's off to a great start. So as Troy mentioned, we're going to go through a brief deck that's an overview to our final expense offerings here at SBLI. We're gonna kind of have a through line here of information that relates to some of the things that you guys, will probably have some curiosities about and want to be on the lookout for, including underwriting niches, the living benefits, some of the stuff that really sort of sets our product apart, as well as some of the fun stuff, that's going to be coming down the line, including incentives and an upcoming, production incentive trip and all that great stuff. So as Troy mentioned, with me today is Steve Mello, who is a support specialist on the relationship management and sales support team. If you've already had your hands on the product, you will have probably had the opportunity to have already interacted with Steve. And if you haven't, then that opportunity is now there in front of you. Steve is a wealth of information. He is a total support and production minded person as it kind of relates to the agent experience. And he's just an overall awesome guy who was excited to get to know you and get to support you in terms of how to help you with your business or writing this product. Alongside Steve is William Spears. Will is going to be handling I would say kind of the meat and potatoes, the bulk of this conversation and presentation. Will's our director of operations. Will is responsible for so many things here at SBLI, and in terms of keeping the lights on from a product and platform perspective. And he is a wealth of information as it relates to not only our product from a underwriting and market competitive standpoint, but is also from a integration and product platform, like how you all get to the product in terms of being able to write it. Will is responsible for overseeing and maintaining and making sure that all of that functionality exists in a systematic way. I'm Russ. I'm the VP of Relationship Management and Sales Support here at SBLI. I'm new to the team, so I'm using this opportunity to introduce myself to you all as members of our proud distribution field, and also for the opportunity to throw my name out there. You're gonna have my contact information. If you guys ever need to get in touch with me or anyone else on my team, you'll have the ability to do that. One small housekeeping note: I do have a conflict at 10:30, so I will be exiting the call then. Steve and Will are going to be maintaining the conversation and the question session from that point thereafter. So when you guys see me drop, it's not a technical issue. It's a preordained thing. So let's roll. So who is SBLI? SBLI is a carrier that's been on the market for a long time, and it's been a household name in both the term insurance space, final expense space, and some of the convergence product, whole life space as well. Our founding vision is really all about making life insurance simple, accessible, affordable, and reliable for anyone who needs it. We'll talk a little bit about specialty zones from a market demographics perspective, but we really do create products that are for everybody, whether it's a final expense product or a term product. We have a super uncompromising set of values. And hey, Will, do you mind just going back to that screen real quick? Sorry, bud. Awesome. So, and one of the things that sets us apart that I just want to mention, especially while Steve here is on the call, is we do have a active and live support team of agents here on site who are readily available to you all in the field. I think one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is our accessibility, not just from a product perspective, but also from a sales support perspective. So at any given time during our operating business hours, you can call in, you can speak to a member of our team who can help you with a case issue, an underwriting question, any one of those, opportunities that you have to, receive some more training or learn more. All of that stuff is available to your fingertips. Let's go on to the next one. Awesome. So, in terms of our innovative products and services, we're living legacy final expense insurance offering. This is what we're going to be chatting through with you all today. We're going to be talking about proprietary product and exclusive access, and we're going to be talking about specifically how it falls into the IIP market, particularly, which is the distribution market that we're all focused on. Let's go on to the next one, Will. Awesome. So just to kind of set the tone from a standpoint of where things are at, today, we've seen a ton of momentum and traction over the course of the last couple of years. The living legacy final expense success to date. So this is inclusive of, since the inception of the product within the IIP organization. This is just sort of an overlay of the production that we've had the opportunity to do with you all. And hopefully it gives us a good sort of sense in terms of what a trajectory might look like. This is a hugely successful product that has a ton of reach from both a agents in the field perspective and also from a final sort of in the hands of the client perspective as well. So you can see here that we've issued just over 30,000 policies since the inception. That's a total of $416 million. In life coverage. It's been in the hands of just shy of 3,000 agents. Hopefully the conversation today is a catalyst to bump that number up. And hopefully you guys will all be excited about getting the chance to arm your clients with this protection as well after this conversation. And we've issued just over 31 million paid premium so far at this point. So I think we can move on to the next one. Cool. Steve, I'm going to kick this over to you, and I'd love it if you could dive in and handle the next couple of slides.
Absolutely, Russ. Thank you. So why write SBLI Living Legacy Final Expense? So basically, it's a very straight up, simple product with a maximum face amount of $35,000. That, of course, depends on the client's age and their risk class rating. The younger you are, the healthier you are, you can get more life insurance, and that kind of caps off and drops off as the client gets older and risk class ratings decline. As for ages, the clients who apply for this product can be 50 to 85 years old. And we have two plans that we offer our clients. The level benefit plan is available to clients who have preferred or standard risk class ratings. For clients who have substandard risk class ratings, they would be eligible for the modified benefit. And the modified benefit essentially is delayed or a delayed death benefit payment. No death benefit essentially is paid in the first 2 years of the policy. If the client dies during the first 2 years of the policy, then their beneficiaries would get a return of premium along with some interest accrual. Okay, easy to understand and underwriting. Okay, so this product is an instant decisioning, instant underwriting, automated underwriting product. The underwriting is done by software and algorithms. There are no underwriters involved. So when you're going through the process, the system is going to tell you after you answer all of the medical questions if the client is eligible or not for this product. And if they are eligible, it'll tell you what their risk class rating, what the premium would be for the plan. The application process, it's fairly easy. I've heard that some agents, the more experienced ones who've been around the block a few times, they can usually wrap up a sales call within 30 to 45 minutes. The application process itself can take it can take approximately 10 to 20 minutes or so, right? Advanced commissions. So our agents are paid advanced commissions. Commission statements, they come out every Friday evening, and then the commission payment itself to the agent is usually paid on Saturday, Monday, or Tuesday, depending on that agent's bank and how quickly and efficiently they're able to process that electronic funds transfer. Our rates for this product, they're competitive, they're affordable. Some of the more successful agents that I've talked to who sell this product, they've told me that they're able to place about 90% of their business with SBLI. They like the fact that our underwriting is flexible, and they like the fact that our premiums are very competitive also. In this product, there are two benefits or two valuable complementary services that we offer. I will get into them more in the next screen, but basically they are the Sequoia Funeral Concierge Planning Service, and then the Legacy Shield service also that we offer that allows clients to essentially do online, or I would call it a virtual vault, where they can store all their important documents and do some estate planning. As for my team, the dedicated SBLI sales support team, I work with a great group of people. I really admire their work ethic and their professionalism. Very quick to respond to your needs. And I would say that I think what differentiates us a lot from others, I would say, is that we really take ownership of our service that we offer to our agents and agencies. So glad to be part of this team. I'm very proud of them. Okay, let's move on to the next page. So let's talk a little bit about the two benefits that we offer: the Sequoia Funeral Concierge Plan and the Legacy Shield Plan. So the Sequoia Funeral Concierge Plan is basically funeral planning services that are offered through Nasser Global, the parent company of Sequoia Funeral Concierge. And they offer this service 24/7. When you call them, there's somebody to pick up the phone, and they start the planning services for you right away. Basically, they help you plan your funeral services for your loved ones. They help you negotiate your funeral planning. So, for example, planning with funeral homes, caskets, etc., cremation services. They even help you plan with transportation and logistics. If there's ever a situation where the deceased and their remains need to be transferred from one state to another, or even internationally, they're very experienced with that. They've had, from what I understand, very extensive experience in South America. They have a global network of funeral service planners, and they are available worldwide across multiple countries around the world. And one more point regarding Sequoia. They do extend this service to up to 10 family members of the insured. So if your client does buy this policy, it would also benefit their families if they ever have that unfortunate incident of a premature death. So the other service that I want to talk to you about is Legacy Shield. And basically, Legacy Shield is an online vault, if you would, where you can store your documents such as your last will and testament or your trust. You can even store like family photographs and other types of valuable documents, PDF copies, electronic copies, if you would. You can also consolidate all of your financial accounts and financial information onto this electronic vault system. And it also allows you to share your information with designated people, such as your beneficiaries or your attorney or your CPA. And from what I understand, there's also a triggering event should you pass away, should the insured pass away while they have the Legacy Shield service. What will happen is once Legacy Shield has been notified of the insured's death by SBLI, it will start to trigger a communication event that would go out to your attorney, would go out to your CPA and beneficiaries also. And then that would help them start the planning for your departure from this world. So those are two great benefits that we offer, and we're proud to offer them to our clients. And we hope that you use that as I would say an incentive to sell to your client these wonderful services that we offer.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and jump in. Thank you, Steve. That was a tremendous overview of these additional value, points of value you can add to help differentiate yourself from the agencies down the street, the policies with the other carriers. At the end of the day, you guys are investing your time, you're investing your resources into working leads. You call 100 leads to get 20 appointments, 10 of them show up, 2 of them bind. So we realize that your time is your money. And if you can use these additional points of value, not just to add, additional, ease in those tough moments in life, but also to help them see that in advance, it helps you be more effective and ultimately be more successful. We want to be a part of your success. So we'll talk a little bit more about these as we get into the presentation a little further. Let's first jump back to the product itself, the core of the product itself, where Steve was mentioning the differences in the benefits. I know there were probably some questions there. He did mention and was spot on and accurate in terms of the ages and eligibility, as well as what they may qualify for and how ultimately the age in class can determine that. So we're going to arm you with a little bit of insight into how you can understand where your clients will fall into that qualification, where they would fall in terms of the max amount of coverage, so you can accurately set those client expectations when you're interacting with your folks. So let's start here. You can see with the level benefit and modified benefit, you do have the same max age ranges, max and min 50 to 85. You can see the coverage differs there in terms of maximum. I will go through on the next slide a little bit deeper level, even one level deeper, to show you where that may tail off. So just bear with me there. But they both, a big takeaway here, are instant issue products. Same session, all instant issue, automated underwriting. As Steve mentioned, the application itself takes on average roughly about 10 minutes. We know the conversations can actually take longer, but in terms of the application, it's a very smooth process, and we get that feedback all the time from the agents. So if you haven't experienced it yet, we're excited for you to try it out and see just how easy it is. For those of you who know somebody who's gone through that process, ask them about it, ask them about their experience, and I think you're going to hear the same type of responses. Let's go ahead and take a look at that next level down, because I think this slide incorporates what's largely what was on that prior slide. I know this, nobody likes to look at tables of data, but I think this one's actually really helpful when you look at the max face amount. So the top tier here, level benefit and modified benefit. I'm actually going to skip down to this max face amount and start here, kind of in the middle, under level benefit, where you can see ages 50 through 75 are eligible for that max coverage of 35K. Now, we're going to provide this deck to your leadership team, so they'll have it as well. We've also got resources we'll point out at the end of the presentation, so you'll have access to these types of pieces of information. You don't have to commit them to memory now. Now is just more so to give you kind of a sense of it and an overview of how it works. The other piece I would mention, in addition to the max ages and coverage, you're going to see on the benefit itself. So let's move up to this top row here, where level benefits, meaning they're qualifying for, they don't have any of the conditions that are going to limit their coverage. And we'll talk about how you will actually know and be able to tell based on their conversation in a few of the upcoming slides. But just at a high level, the full benefits available day one. Obviously, there's still the contestable period, but in theory, it's payable day one, right? Barring any other findings of misrepresentation or anything like that. Unfortunately, we know that some clients aren't always forthcoming with us, and that's just one of the pieces of business that we all have to navigate. The other thing is, for the modified benefit, this is the one that I really wanted to point out. So let's say they do have one of those classes where their health conditions inhibit their eligibility to the modified death benefit, and they don't qualify for the level benefit. What that means is during year one, they would essentially get a return to premium plus 5%. So you can see it's 105% of the premiums paid should they pass within that first year. And then year two is 110% of the premiums paid. And then from years 3 and on, they would be eligible for the full benefit of the coverage amount, subject to the maximum of their criteria of eligibility. Again, if you have questions on this, and I don't actually know that we mentioned this before, if you have questions on this, please direct them to your uplines. Please feel free to leverage our customer resource, our agent resources that Steve mentioned in our team here at SBLI. They're very knowledgeable, very helpful, and Steve leads the charge there. We'll provide you with that contact information later in the presentation. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm not one for reading everything on the slides. You'll notice the annual policy fee stated on here. It's available in all states except for New York. And again, this will be made available to you after the fact. What I really want to get into is putting it in real world context. What's going to help your success? And I think it goes back to accurately setting the expectations for your clients, right? I'm pretty sure everybody on the call would agree with that. So how do you know how to set the expectations for this particular product? Well, really, you're going to know there are 3 different parts of the application, parts A, B, and C. And the way that you'll know if the client is going to be eligible for, modified versus level benefit would be how they answer the questions. The other part of that would be the height and weight chart. We'll go through that here in a moment. And then lastly, the only unknown to you as the agent helping the client would be if something pulls behind the scenes, for example, with their prescriptions that they don't disclose to you. So, but in a large part, let's just say it's a client who's being forthcoming, which we all love those. You'll be able to know by the height and weight and by how they answer the questions what they're going to qualify for. And in the event that they do return some different results behind the scenes of the prescriptions, that happens in the same session. So it will reclass and reprice right there in that session so you can move forward. So let's take a look at what we have here on the screen. Parts A, B, and C. If no is answered in all 3 parts, in other words, if you don't have any question that you answer yes to in part A, B, and C, we know it's going to go through with the level benefit plan. If you have a yes answer in part C, but everything in part A and B are no, we know it's still going to be level, but standard. It's not going to be preferred. It'll be standard. It'll still be level. And then with the modified plan, that's really just saying if there's a question answered yes in part B, which we're actually going to show you the application here in a few moments so you can see what we're referring to, and we'll kind of recap this in the real context. Part A, a big takeaway would be that's going to be your knockouts. That's going to be where they're going to be declined if they answer anything, if they answer yes to any question in part A. So this is part A. You can see the questions here. Again, this is going to be provided to your upline, so you can take a look at this. But you're going to see these are going to be the big questions that are going to, kick it out in terms of a decline. A takeaway would be if you have multiple yes or no's in the question, ultimately it's going to be the last question that you answer that's going to define whether or not it's going to be declined or not. Think of the last question answered in that box as the one that ultimately determines the disposition. I'll just give you a second to read through those. I believe this is the longest section of the application. The sections B and C get shorter. So let's go ahead and take a look at Part B. And again, I know that probably wasn't enough time to get through this, but this will be provided. So here you are with Part B. Again, this is going to basically determine if they're going to be eligible, but for the modified plan. So Part A, if they answered no to any of those questions, it would have been kicked out and declined. Part B, if they answer yes here, it's going to be eligible, but it's going to be for modified. So you can see here, you've got heart valve disease, congestive heart failure, within the past 24 months, pacemaker, etc. And then Part C, so this is where it's going to refer to, it's going to either be preferred or standard, but level benefit, right? So it's not the modified where you get the 105% back in the first year, the 110% of premium pays back if they pass in the second year. It's where the benefits are available day one, but is it going to be preferred pricing or is it going to be standard pricing? If they answer no to all of these, it's going to be preferred. If they answer yes here, they're still going to qualify for the level pricing, but at a standard classification. And you can see here, one of the things that we check out the COPD on here is something that's eligible for standard level benefit. So that would actually move us into, and I'm going to skip it ahead. I'll come back to the height and weight chart. But that's going to move us into some of the underwriting sweet spots that I would say we hear in terms of feedback that differentiate SBLI and our underwriting eligibility, and why so many agents write with us compared to the other carriers. It's not just pricing; it's also that our competitive positioning with these conditions listed on the screen here. So here in a moment, I'm going to go back a slide and go to the height and weight chart. As mentioned before, the questions and how they're answered will help you determine what expectation to set for the client, but also the height and weight chart, which I think you'll find to be pretty liberal in terms of guidelines. For example, a minimum weight chart for a 6-foot individual would be 122 pounds. The maximums that you can see here for each class associated go up to 348 pounds for 6 feet tall. So again, I think you're going to find it's a very wide range. We get a lot of positive feedback on this as well. And this is something that's available to you. Again, the goal today is not to commit all this to memory. It's just to provide you with a sense of our competitive positioning, a sense of kind of the application flow and how to set the expectations, and the value that the product brings. It's not just the writing of the check to the client, right? We believe at SBLI our obligation to the client goes further than that. We know that it's a horrible time that these folks are going through. The loved ones of the individual have the policy, and those instances can be very, very hard to navigate, especially when you're having to do all those things that Steve mentioned earlier. Planning the funeral services or transporting remains from a different country. And that's why this additional value can help those folks in at these tough points in time. I would say that the discounted prices, if nothing more, gives them at least a solid point of reference, even if they don't end up using the benefit in terms of taking advantage and moving forward with a purchase choice of some kind or using one of the services. If nothing more, how many times have we seen folks that have been taken advantage of or heard stories of that where they paid an exorbitant amount of dollars just because of all the grief they were dealing with? They didn't have time to focus on it and manage it. Nobody wants to have to worry about that risk while they're already going through a hard enough time. Using the discounted prices as a point of reference can be by itself a great value to folks, knowing that they've got these references and knowing that if they're going to go with somebody maybe that's local to them, that's not inside that network, at least they know they're getting a fair deal. So Steve touched on a lot of these pieces during his overview, so I'm not going to go back over them. But just know that additional family members can be included in this extended protection as well. And you'll see that over here on this fourth bullet point down in the key benefits table on the right. Now, one of the things with Legacy Shield that Steve mentioned, and I completely think it's the best way to look at this, is an online vault. So this is something where their photos, their wills, their documents, right? If they have bank accounts, so think about, how many bank accounts do you have? How many banks are you banking with today, right? How frustrating would it be for somebody to go and try to figure out, well, who did they bank with? Do they have any money there? Did they set up their, pay on debt, details with those banks? How do I even know which ones to go check with? This is where you can actually store all of that information to make it easier on your loved ones during those tough times. So you can set it up to where it actually sends notifications to these folks upon your passing, and they have that access to all these documents. If they don't have a will today, there are services that they can pursue that are offered in the Legacy Shield portal. They are services they would have to pay for, but things like creating a will is one of those items that's available on that actual portal. And again, it goes back to, if nothing more, even if they don't use the service there, they could get a price for it, and then they could use that to shop around locally, give them a good point of reference for comparison. So a lot of extra value, but at the end of the day, you're protecting them, you're helping these folks during those times in their families by these additional pieces of value that are added beyond just writing them the check to really make it easier at that hard time. And what that means for you as the agent is you're able to differentiate yourself from the agent down the street selling another final expense product. You're able to differentiate SBLI's product versus another carrier's product, which then adds to, again, your ability to help sell on value, not just on price. We do hear we're very price competitive, but the value is the most important piece, right? So in terms of the instant application process, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. We have one that goes a little bit more in depth that I'll focus on for a moment. But overall, if you have access to a pre-qualification tool today, and not everybody does, but we would recommend that you use that pre-qualification tool to help understand what that client might be eligible for. In terms of the easy class benefit determination, we already went through how you can understand how the questions are answered in the height and weight chart. We talked about the instant decision. We will talk a little bit more about how the client signs the application. So it's important that they have the option and opportunity to do business how they want to do business and how they're comfortable. So we do provide the availability of voice signature for those folks who don't have a computer or aren't comfortable signing via DocuSign, or maybe they've got internet challenges, whatever it may be. You have that option to pivot to the voice signature, or you can send the email where they're able to sign if they're remote to you, meaning you're doing business over the phone. And then if they're there in person, you can actually just spin your computer and have them sign on your device. You have the opportunity to select the payment date. So we actually tie it in with the Social Security distribution treasury schedule that's published every year, so that it knows when it's going to move it forward to the Friday. If it falls on a Sunday, we know that if there's a holiday, what it's going to move forward to. So that's where we've set our schedule to pull at 4 a.m. on the date that it actually distributes. 4 a.m. was set so it accounts for all time zones, including Hawaii. And that way, we're ensuring that these folks that are relying on these funds to make these premium payments, the funds are there, right? So we've timed it out just so. Now, that kind of ties into the options you have within the application journey to set it with those Social Security distribution schedule options, one being the first of the month, one being the third of the month, and then the second, third, or fourth Wednesday of the month. And I'll show you that on another slide. Just know that you have that option. If you do not choose the Social Security distribution option, it's going to default to pull the payment today. We do not have the option to choose a payment date unless you tie it to the Social Security distribution calendar. The big takeaway there. Commissions are advanced in most cases. They are paid weekly. So every Friday, those batch out, and the funds arrive, I believe, first thing Saturday morning, depending on your bank. So again, commissions are paid weekly with this product. This is giving a little bit more insight into that application journey I was referring to. So I already touched on some of these pieces, from the pre-qualification tools to the quoting process, which I'm going to show you a little bit more of a step-by-step to access the quoting platform here in a few moments, to the underwriting reports that happen within the application. So once you've entered the information into the application, it's going to begin to scrub behind the scenes for those ID verification points, as well as for different prescriptions. At which point, once you get the decisions and approval and they've agreed to move forward, you have those signature options that you're able to deliver. You choose those earlier in the journey today. Some of these might change in terms of sequence just with some of the enhancements. We are always looking to improve upon not only the client journey, but also the agent journey, to streamline things and just make it easier for you as well. So that may be moving, but today you choose that a little bit early in the application process prior to actually getting the decision, which would return the class if it changes, right? That's where, again, you would see that if something pulls behind the scenes, even though the questions were answered and it qualified for preferred, now it might be standard. You would see that in that journey, in which case you would be able to go ahead and choose the billing, whether it be the Social Security counter or pull those funds today, and then trigger the actual delivery. Now, you do have the ability to deliver the policy via paper application, paper policy, or a digital copy. We always encourage, if folks aren't comfortable using email, always go the paper. One thing we've seen with persistency, if you think about, and I'm going to use a very nasty word here, chargebacks. Nobody likes that word. It's an awful word. We know it, fortunately, it's a part of the business. We know that policies are more likely to stay in force, and you're less likely to have a chargeback, which is what we want for you, if that client recognizes that policy, knows that they have it, recognizes the funds coming out of their account. What we've seen in the past would be instances where maybe the client wasn't comfortable using email, and so the agent helped them create an email. The client creates an email on their own. The agent didn't do it, right? We want to make sure we're not printing email addresses for clients. But the client creates one and is able to sign the documents. Well, the client isn't comfortable using email in the first place, so they're not going back there to check their email. And so they never saw the copy of the digital policy, which really lets them not recognizing the charges. Think about these folks, ages 50 to 85. Some of these folks have conditions that kind of inhibit their ability to remember these things. And so they think it's an unauthorized policy. They call in to cancel and creating a chargeback. All that to say, had they gotten the paper copy of the policy, that could have been avoided. We've seen those numbers improve when they get the paper policy for those folks who aren't using an email that aren't frequently using an email, aren't comfortable using it routinely. So be sure to do the best thing for your client. I know you guys will. But in terms of your persistency and commissions, it's super important that we're making sure we're giving this every opportunity for success and doing business in the way the client is most comfortable, including policy delivery. So let's look at the screenshot for the agent portal. This is where you're going to go when you receive the emails stating that you've been contracted with SBLI. Now, if you already have a contract with SBLI, you may already have login credentials for this portal. One thing that you're going to want to note is that your login credentials are relationship specific. Going back to what Russ said at the initial part of the webinar, this is a proprietary product. It's not available to the open market, which means your contract code will now come with a new set of credentials. You may have 2 sets of credentials, or you could even have 3, depending, with this agent portal. We want to make sure you're using the set of credentials associated with the final expense product access. So if you log in here and you don't see the final expense option, it's because you're probably using the other set of credentials. So make sure you're using the set of credentials associated with the final expense product. You should have got 2 emails. Your username and password will come in separate emails. So once you've logged in here, you'll notice the bottom left, you'll see final expense. That hyperlink here, that's where you're going to go to launch the application platform. It is super important that you don't save the link directly to this hyperlink to your browser. Reason being, it can inhibit your ability to submit business. Imagine starting an application, getting all the way through it, and it locks up, and then you have to redo everything. It's a bad situation for your client. You could lose that. Always make sure you're going to the agent portal using this hyperlink to access the platform rather than saving the link directly outside of the portal. We have something behind the scenes that's called breaking the chain. It's a technical phrase relating to our ability to bridge into the other systems and the interconnectivity in terms of how that's done. And it can break intermittently. So the last thing we want is for you to go through all those steps only to lose everything and have to redo it. Important takeaway, make sure to log into the portal first. You should see the final expense hyperlink here. If you don't, double check that you're using the right set of credentials. Once you click on the hyperlink, it's going to prompt you to log in using those same credentials to the actual application. Now, that's a today standing. We are looking to bring in single sign-on eventually where you won't have to log in again. But as it stands today, you will need to use that same set of credentials to log into the application. And that's when you can go ahead and fill out those questions and information, components that we talked about earlier when we were looking at the actual application, along with the client information. Additional things available on the portal. We're not going to go into the actual platform today, but I will show you a couple of other items that you will find useful on the agent portal, including access to your book of business, right? So you can actually see down to the policy level. You can actually print the documents for the client. So if they want a copy of the policy, this is where you can go to do that. It's super important that we never use our own information on a client's application to get copies of their information. I know sometimes they just have done this as a way to say, well, I'm going to have it email a copy of the policy. The client's signing here in person. Why does it matter if my email's on the application? They don't have an email anyway. That's a compliance no-no. Want to make sure agent information is never on the application. This is the correct way to go and get a copy of the policy. There are a lot of other things you can look at here, including policy status. This is where you can find out maybe if a policy is pending lapse. So great place to explore. I would encourage you to spend a little time looking through all of the items in here. I know one of the things you're definitely going to want to look at would be the commissions. So you can access your commissions that are paid out weekly on the agent portal as well. We already talked about some of the premium billing dates there in the middle. So on the FAQs, I just want to touch on a couple of things. We accept EFT payments, routing and account numbers only. We know that from past experience with credit cards and debit cards, we've seen a greater rate of attrition, meaning lower persistency, and significant, I might add, when it's been a credit card or debit card compared to using a routing and account number. So that's all we accept on this. They will have to have those. If the client doesn't have an email, check out the bottom section here. The client does not have an email today. That's a required field. It won't let you leave it blank. Just enter in none@none.com. We're working on that. Eventually, it's not going to be a required field. We're going to have a button that says client doesn't have an email, in which case the policy delivery would default to paper. Today, they don't have an email. Make sure you're choosing paper delivery, going back to that point that was made on the prior slide. If they don't have an email, want to make sure we're using the voice signature option if they're not in person. We don't want them creating an email that's new to use via DocuSign. One of the things that's coming, we'll be checking for emails in terms of known associations with clients behind the scenes. So if it's a new email, it may not pass that. They may have to go to a voice signature anyway. And then, of course, the last bullet point, selecting the delivery option of paper versus email. We already talked about that. So this is the contact sheet for your additional points of support, depending on the nature of the support that you need. So the sales support there, the 855 number on the top, that goes directly to Steve. Now, Steve's a busy guy. We have a whole team that helps. So if you don't get Steve, it may roll over to somebody else here at SBLI. In worst case scenario, it's a voicemail, in which case we can get back to you in a timely fashion. You can also email all of your questions to finalexpense@sbli.com. Customers can use the customer service information. We don't want agents calling into customer service. Agents are unable to change the bank information. They're unable to change the draft date. clients can do that. We discourage them changing the draft dates just because behind the scenes, in terms of the maximum amount of days of grace period, that doesn't change. The payment draw date can change, but the grace period wouldn't. So it can end up giving them effectively a shorter grace period. They have 20 days when with the first payment of a grace period. They have 39 days on any other payment after the first payment has been made successfully. If you choose to, if the client chooses to change the payment draw date, because again, the agent cannot do that, the client calls in and changes it, it could shorten that grace period, making it harder for you to set the expectation of what grace period they actually have. So again, we always discourage that, understanding sometimes that there might be no way around it. So just wanted to provide you with those insights. Commissions, if you have commissions and want to make questions on your commission, you can definitely reach out to the commissions department. If you have problems with the application, if it's not working properly, you would have the application platform help resources. In terms of agent sales support, the SBLIagent.com, that is the portal. That is the portal email address. So that's where you would go. You'd log in with your login credentials that were specific to the Final Expense product, and that's where you would launch the application platform. We've got a lot of other resources on our partners.SBLI page for Living Legacy. You can see that email, or excuse me, that website at the bottom. It's a microsite with all these different resources that you can download and use. Some of those things were used in our presentation today. We also have a toolkit available that helps you with different pieces of collateral to provide your clients in the event you want to send them some collateral and you weren't able to move them to a conversion, to a policy, to an application in that phone call. Maybe they just want to learn more. Now, this is huge. This year, we're going to Punta Cana. That's for the contest winners for 2024. So the trip is taking place in 2025 for those 2024 winners. It's going to be a great trip. The year prior, which would have been, we went March of this year, we went to Playa del Carmen in Mexico. So in 2026, we're going to have another tropical destination to be announced shortly. The qualifications will be announced as well, and what you need to qualify. Typically, it's been like the top 20, top 25 agents above a minimum threshold hurdle. So be on the lookout for that. But it's one of these trips where all expenses paid. It's typically an all-inclusive type of resort. A lot of fun and just a really great time to meet with other top producers, learn maybe about what they're doing, what we can do better. You get a lot of senior leadership within the IIP structure, within SBLI structure, where we want to hear from top producers at these events while we're having a great time and having some great food. So be on the lookout for those details soon to follow. With that, I'll turn it back over to Troy. That's all we have for our presentation today. And we can open it up. I would say questions, Troy, we probably want to get an email with a list of questions. That way we can address those after the fact.
Thanks so much, Wally, for all the great content. A couple things I wanted to point out is, I feel like the successful agents in our industry, whether it's life or health, are the ones that consistently follow up with their client base. And what I really like about these complementary services these are great selling points, in addition to the fact that their client's going to have a death benefit for their loved ones. To be able to have that digital vault free of charge, where they could do trust and wills and have all their important financial information. If the agent is the point of contact upon their client's death to those family members, that's just going to provide that much more value to that whole circle of network. And these family members are going to have this agent as the one who helped them out, not just with the death benefit, but with the other important accounts out there that they might not know about. And that does happen. There's even life policies out there that beneficiaries don't even know about. So that's definitely a great service to point out when you're selling this. And also just the instant decision. You don't see that on a lot of cases. So for agents who are doing phone sales or might be call center agents. I know that's been a very popular thing with how quick that instant decision is. That's one question I had for you, William, is once the agent gets to the end of that app and it basically goes to pull the medications and it might be, how quick is that process to where you click the button?
That'll happen behind the scenes without them having to be delayed in the process.
Okay. Good deal. Yeah. So like William mentioned, this is a separate proprietary appointment. So you can go to the Messer LC and it's one of the options out there. It's going to say SBLI final expense. And yeah, so we're excited about this. We feel like it's a great product to offer, especially with those other services. But I think we do have some questions here, so let me just reference those real quick. The first question was, are these extra services free? Which I believe the answer to that is yes. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
No additional charges for those, except for, I guess the only exception to that would be if you use any of the services like creating a will in the Legacy Shield platform. There are services that are offered there that there would be a fee associated with, but the core use of the product, which would just be using it as kind of like a vault online, that's absolutely no cost to the policyholder.
Good deal. How about U.S. citizenship? Is that required to qualify?
Yes, I believe it is. I have to double check the underwriting on that, but I believe that is a requirement.
I think it's legal resident is the question on the application. So U.S. citizen or somebody who has a permanent residency card.
And do you have any materials in Spanish?
Unfortunately, we don't.
Okay. And then there's another question here about chronic kidney disease. Do you know anything to that effect with underwriting?
I think chronic kidney disease was on the Part C of the application. Just let me take a quick look at that. Hold on, please. Let me see. And if it is on Part C, the only question that really comes up is dialysis, right? It's on Part C. So you can have somebody with chronic kidney disease and still get an application. But unfortunately, if that person is on dialysis treatment, therapy, then they will not qualify for a policy.
Okay, so potentially modified then.
Right, potentially modified or declined, unfortunately.
Well, Part C would be standard or this year. Part C could still be. Bear with me. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. So, if I'm looking at Part A and B and answer no to all those, but answer one yes and C, I could still be level at standard.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't show that one would be modified as I'm looking at the question, and the question specifically reads, within the last 5 years, have you been diagnosed with or received treatment by a licensed medical professional for chronic kidney disease? So if you answer yes, you're going to go standard.
So definitely some good competitive underwriting features there and competitive rates for sure. So if you'd like to find out some more, this particular product has a marketing microsite that has instant access to all the consumer brochures. We can get that over to you, and also some underwriting guides. And the contracting, like I said before, can be done on Sure LC, so be sure to reach out to us for that. Thanks everyone for your time. Have a great rest of your day.